Every single fan of Fiancé knows. The sound of Darcey Silva crying. We have heard it for years. We have watched the tears ruin her makeup and soak her designer clothes. We have heard her scream to the heavens that she just wants to be loved, that she just wants to be a bride. We have watched her chase men across oceans, endure humiliation, and force engagement rings onto fingers that didn't want them. The narrative has always been the same. Poor Darcey. She is unlucky in love. She picks the wrong men. She is desperate. But what if that entire story is a lie? What if the reason Darcey Silva never makes it down the aisle isn't because of bad luck, bad timing, or bad men? What if the reason Darcey Silva cannot get married is simply because she already is? Look closely at the timeline. Look closely at the panicked look in her eyes when legal paperwork is mentioned. We have uncovered a theory that changes everything. Darcey isn't looking for a first husband. She is hiding a secret husband. And the reason she can't marry Georgi or Tom or Jesse isn't heartbreak. It's bigamy. Before we expose the secret marriage license and the legal quagmire that TLC is terrified you will find out about, you need to do one thing. Press that like button and subscribe to the Tell All Tapes. We are the only channel brave enough to dig this deep. And you do not want to miss the evidence we are about to reveal. Join the investigation right now. Let's go back to the beginning. To understand the secret husband scandal, you have to understand the lost years. Most fans think Darcey's story began when she met Jesse Mester online. But Darcey had a whole life before the camera started rolling. We dug into the archives of her life in Los Angeles in the late '80s. This was before the plastic surgery became extreme, before the twin transformation was complete. This was the era of the Silva twins trying to be famous actresses and producers in Hollywood. It was a time of wild parties, red carpets, and blurry nights. Our investigation into this period has uncovered a massive gap in her timeline. Specifically around sources and deep dive theories suggest that during a particularly wild weekend trip to Las Vegas, Darcey Silva did what so many aspiring starlets do. She got caught up in the romance of the moment. The theory is simple but devastating. During a blurry, alcohol-fueled night in Clark County, Nevada, Darcey Silva walked into an Elvis chapel with a man. Maybe he was a bartender. Maybe he was an aspiring actor she met at a club. Or maybe he was just a handsome stranger who paid her the attention she craved so deeply. They thought it was a joke. They thought it was just for fun, a souvenir from a wild weekend. They signed the papers. They said the vows. And then they woke up the next morning, laughed it off, and went their separate ways. Darcey likely assumed that because she didn't file the paperwork herself or because it was a cheesy chapel wedding, it wasn't legally binding. She went back to Connecticut. She forgot about him. But the state of Nevada did not forget. Marriage laws in Nevada are strict, and once that license is signed and the officiant files it, you are legally married in the eyes of the United States government. There is no just for fun clause in a marriage license. This creates the foundation of The entire scandal. For over a decade, Darcey Silva has been legally attached to a mystery man, a ghost from her past who she can no longer find. And this is where the tragedy turns into a conspiracy. Why hasn't she just divorced him? Why hasn't she fixed this? Because to fix it, you have to find him. If this man was a drifter, or if he moved countries, or if he simply changed his name, Darcey cannot serve him divorce papers. She is trapped in illegal limbo. Now look at her television career through this lens. It changes everything. You thought you knew about her relationships. Suddenly, the chaos isn't desperation. It is sabotage. It is a performance. Think about Jessie Meester. When Jessie and Darcey first appeared on Before the Days, their relationship was toxic, confusing, and full of strange accusations. We all thought Jessie was just gaslighting her. And maybe he was, but listen to his words again. He constantly told her, "You are not who you say you are." He accused her of lying about everything. He called her a fraud. At the time, we thought he was talking about her filtered photos or her age. But what if Jessie, who was obsessed with control and background checks, found out the truth? There is a moment in their relationship that never made sense until now. Jessie came to Connecticut. He met her daughters. They talked about marriage constantly. But every time it got real, every time a proposal seemed imminent, a massive fight would break out over nothing. The steak was cut wrong. The shoes were thrown. Why? Because Darcey knew she couldn't actually say yes. She needed the engagement for the show. She needed the ring for her ego, but she could never actually sign a marriage license with Jessie. If she did, she would be committing a felony on national television. So, she pushed him. She poked him. She created drama out of thin air to ensure that they would break up before the wedding could happen. She gets the fame. She gets the sympathy of being the victim, but she protects her dark legal secret. Jessie knew. That is the insider theory. Jessie knew she was still married. That is why he looked at her with such disdain. That is why he treated her like a liar. He was holding on to a secret that he couldn't say on camera because of his NDA with the network. TLC paints the story of a woman looking for love, not a woman hiding a felony bigamy charge. If Jessie had blurted out, "You are already married to a guy in Vegas," the entire premise of the show would collapse. So he spoke in code. He called her fake. He said she had drinking problems. He said she wasn't stable. He was trying to tell us without violating his contract. Then came Tom Brooks, the British gentleman. Or so we thought. Remember the infamous key incident? Darcey was expecting a ring. She had dropped every hint possible. She went to London. She met his sister. She played the part of the future wife perfectly. And what did Tom give her? A key to his house. A key that didn't even work properly. At the time, it looked like a cruel joke. But look at it from the perspective of the secret husband theory. Tom Brooks is a man who prides himself on his image. Do you think he didn't do his due diligence? Do you think he didn't check her public records? The theory posits that Tom Brooks found the marriage certificate from Clark County. He saw the name Darcey Silva next to the redacted name of Mr. X. He knew he couldn't propose. He knew a marriage to Darcey would be void ab initio, invalid from the start, but he wanted to stay on the show. He wanted fame, so he offered her a symbol that wasn't a ring. A key. A key signifies access, not commitment. It was his way of keeping the storyline going without stepping into the legal trap Darcey had set for him. And watch Darcey's face in that scene. She isn't just disappointed, she is terrified. She looks at the box, hoping it's a ring, but also dreading it because if he proposes, she has to say yes. And if she says yes, the clock starts ticking on her secret. When she sees the key, there is a flicker of relief behind the tears. She is safe for another season. This pattern is undeniable. She collects engagement rings but flees from wedding bands. She self-sabotages the moment things get legally binding. And through it all, there is one person who knows the truth. One person who watches from the sidelines with a smirk that says everything. Stacey Silva knows where the bodies are buried. Stacey knows who Mr. X is. Why do you think Stacey is always the one who gets married? Stacey married Florian. Stacey had the wedding. Stacey has the paperwork. She dangles it in front of Darcey, not just to be mean, but to remind her of the mess she's in. When Stacey says, "I'm married and you're not," she isn't just teasing. She is stating a legal fact that Darcey is powerless to change. Stacey is the only legitimate wife in the family, and she uses that power to control Darcey's narrative. We have to talk about the emotional toll this takes on a person. Imagine living a double life for years. Imagine going on international television crying about wanting a husband while knowing that a piece of paper in a dusty filing cabinet in Nevada proves you already have one. The psychological pressure is what drives the drinking, the erratic behavior, the constant need for validation. Darcey is trying to outrun her past. She is trying to drown out the reality of her legal status with louder outfits, bigger lips, and younger men. She picks men like Georgi, men who are dependent on her, men who are less likely to ask hard questions or hire private investigators. Georgi was the perfect distraction. He didn't care about the paperwork. He cared about the lifestyle. But even with Georgi, she couldn't go through with it. The excuses kept piling up. The trust issues, the money, the ex-girlfriend, it's always something. But beneath it all, the barrier is the law. This brings us to the most disturbing part of the investigation. The cover-up. TLC is not stupid. They have legal teams. They do background checks. There is a very strong possibility that the network knows about the secret husband. So why do they keep casting her? Because the train wreck is profitable. But they also have to protect themselves from liability. If they film a wedding that is fraudulent, They are complicit. This explains the script. This explains why Darcey is the eternal fiancé. The producers likely engineer these breakups to happen right before the altar. They feed the doubts. They encourage the fights. They bring in the exes. They do whatever it takes to stop the wedding because they know the wedding cannot legally happen. They are milking Darcey's misery for ratings, capitalizing on her inability to get a divorce from a man she can't find. But who is he? That is the question that keeps us up at night. Who is the man that Darcey Silva married in? Our researchers have been scouring the Clark County public records, dealing with redacted files and sealed documents. In the second part of this report, we are going to reveal what we found. We have a name. We have a possible location. And we have a theory about why this man has stayed silent for so long. Is he being paid off? Is he in prison? Or does he not even know that he is still married to one of the most famous reality TV stars in the world? The answer is darker than you think. The silence surrounding this man is deafening. And that silence is expensive. To understand why Darcey is still legally bound to a stranger we have to look at the brutal reality of the American legal system. You might be asking yourself, if she is rich and famous, why doesn't she just hire a lawyer and make the problem go away? Why doesn't she just get a quiet divorce? The answer lies in the trap of her own celebrity. In the state of Nevada, to get a divorce, you must serve papers to your spouse. You have to hand them the document that says it is over. But if you do not know where that person is, if Mr. X was a transient soul who drifted out of her life the morning after their Vegas wedding, you cannot serve him. The law requires you to prove you have searched for him. You have to publish a notice in the newspaper. And this is the catch that destroys Darcey's life. If Darcey Silva, the face of the Day Fiancé franchise, files a public notice in a newspaper looking for a missing husband, TMZ picks it up in minutes. The blogs pick it up. The secret is out. The entire narrative of her being a single woman looking for love is exposed as a fraud. She loses her contract. She loses her credibility. She loses the sympathy of millions of fans who believe she is a victim of heartbreak, not a perpetrator of a legal scam. She is held hostage by her own fame. She cannot fix the mistake of her past without destroying her future. So she stays paralyzed. She stays married to a ghost because the alternative is public ruin. This puts the cancelled twin wedding into a horrifying new light. Remember the lead up to the big event? It was supposed to be the crowning moment of the spin-off. Darcey and Stacey side by side marrying Florian and Georgi. The venue was picked. The dresses were bought. The hype was astronomical. And then suddenly Darcey pulled the plug. She blamed Georgi. She blamed his attitude, his finances, his friends. But look at the timing. The cancellation happened right after the legal teams for the show would have done their final background checks for the marriage licenses. It is highly probable that a producer pulled Darcey into a room, slammed a file on the table and said, "We know. We know you are still married to the guy from Vegas. You cannot marry George the First on camera." Imagine the devastation. Imagine standing there in your white dress, ready to finally have your moment, and being told by a lawyer that if you say, "I do," you go to prison. In the United States, bigamy is not a parking violation. It is a felony. It carries jail time. TLC is a reality show network, but they are not in the business of filming felonies that make them liable as accessories. The wedding had to be stopped. The writers had to scramble. They had to create a reason for the breakup that the audience would accept. So, they threw Georgie under the bus. They edited him to look like a villain. They magnified every small argument to justify calling off the wedding. Georgi Rusev wasn't the problem. The Las Vegas Records Bureau was the problem. Georgie was just the casualty of Darcey's secret. This also explains why Georgie always looks so confused. Watch the breakup scenes again. He looks baffled. He doesn't understand why she is pushing him away. He feels the love. He is ready to commit, but she is spiraling. He likely didn't know the truth either. Darcey was gaslighting him. To protect herself, she had to make him the bad guy so no one would look at her. It is a masterclass in deflection, born out of sheer panic. And through all of this, we have to talk about Stacey again. The dynamic between these twins is toxic, competitive, and deeply rooted in this secret. Stacey's smirk is the smirk of a woman who holds the nuclear launch codes. Stacey has likely known about the Vegas wedding since she was probably there. Maybe she was the witness. This knowledge gives Stacey ultimate power. Whenever Darcey starts to shine, whenever Darcey gets too close to happiness, Stacey acts out, but she also protects the secret because the show is their livelihood. If Darcey goes down, the show goes down and Stacey loses her paycheck too. They are locked in a pact of mutual destruction. Stacey gets to be the married one, the stable one, while Darcey is forced to play the role of the eternal mess. It is a role she is contractually and legally obligated to play until she finds Mr. So, we decided to do what Darcey cannot. We decided to look for him. Our investigation team spent weeks digging through the digitized archives of Clark County, Nevada. We filtered through thousands of marriage licenses from two. We looked for the name Darcey Silva. We looked for misspellings. We looked for variations. And we found something that made our blood run cold. In the index of marriage certificates from November, there is a record that has been partially sealed. Most records are public, but this one has a flag on it. The first name is Darcey. The last name is redacted, but the length of the redacted block perfectly matches Silva. The groom's name is visible only by initials MT. Who is MT? We cross-referenced this with Darcey's known associates from that era. We looked at her old social media posts, which have since been scrubbed. We found deep archive photos of her at a club in Las Vegas with a man fitting the description of an aspiring model named Michael. We are calling him Michael T. For now, to protect the investigation. Sources in the industry suggest that Michael T was a bartender and a part-time actor who hung out with the Silva twins during their party phase. He has since vanished from the public eye. No Instagram, no Facebook. It is as if he dropped off the face of the earth. There are two possibilities here. Possibility 1, Michael T is a regular guy living a normal life in the Midwest, completely unaware that he is technically still married to a reality TV superstar. He thinks the Vegas thing was a joke. He has moved on. Possibility 2, and this is the darker theory, he knows exactly who he is married to. He knows exactly how much she is worth, and he is being paid to stay hidden. Is it possible that Darcey, or perhaps her father, Mike Silva, has been paying hush money to this man for a decade, keeping him quiet to protect the brand? If the payments stop, does he come forward? The existence of a payoff would explain Darcey's constant money stress. She makes millions from the show, from Cameo, from her clothing line, House of. Yet, she always seems desperate for the next season. Where's the money going? Is she bleeding cash to keep Mr. X in the shadows? It fits the profile. A blackmail scheme would add an incredible amount of stress to her life, contributing to the emotional instability we see on screen. She isn't just crying about love. She is crying because she is being extorted by a ghost from her past. This rewrites the history of Day. Fiancé. It turns Darcey Silva from a caricature into a tragic figure. She is a woman trapped in a prison of her own making, unable to move forward, unable to go back. She wears engagement rings like costumes because she knows they can never be real. She plans weddings she knows will never happen. She screams, "I deserve love," because she knows the law says she cannot have it. We are not done digging. This story is too big to let go. We have hired a private investigator based in Las Vegas to physically go to the courthouse and attempt to unseal the redacted document. We are going to find Michael T. We are going to find out if the signature on that license belongs to Darcey Silva. We are closing in on the truth that TLC has spent millions of dollars trying to hide. But we need your help to keep this investigation funded and active. If you know a man with the initials MT who partied in Las Vegas with the Silva twins in, if you have any information about Darcey's lost years in Los Angeles, or if you have seen the unredacted marriage license, you need to contact us immediately. You can DM us anonymously. Your identity will be protected. We are building a case file that will blow the lid off this franchise. Darcey Silva thinks she has buried this secret in the desert sand, but the wind is picking up and the truth is about to be exposed. She isn't unlucky. She isn't cursed. She is married, and we are going to prove it. Do not look away. The evidence is mounting, and the reveal is coming. Hit that like button if you want to see the marriage license. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you are the first to know when we find the May's secret husband. The clock is ticking, Darcey. We know the truth.